Let's go. Let's go. I love this. What? Every podcast should start with a dance off. What?
What's up, dude? It's good to see you, bro.
So,
Look at
man,
that, man. You're in your outdoor throne. It's
greetings
like a
from
king
Oakland,
seat right there.
California. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful spring day out here.
That's awesome,
Pretty
man.
good.
That's
Thought I
pretty
might
cool.
show
Have
off
you
a
been
little
doing?
bit, you know.
You have to. You have to. Have you been gardening much?
I don't garden at all. Yeah, thankfully, my wife does all the hard labor over here. I just, stay on the computer all day long and do sales. So yeah, luckily
I
no,
like it.
but I get
I
to enjoy
like
it
it.
nonetheless. Yeah.
Dude, it's sick. It's super rad. That's awesome, man. Yeah, what a cool setup. I was thinking back about one of the craziest times I remember with you is we had one of our coworkers came up and she was like, "Hey, got a meeting. Both of you, come on." And we look and we're like, "Oh yeah, it's on our calendar, I guess. Okay, come on." So we walk out of our office together. We start walking. This is downtown San Francisco, right in the financial district, and we're like, I'm like, "Where are we going?" And both of you guys turn. You're like, "Microsoft." I'm like, "Oh shoot, we're meeting with Microsoft right now." And you guys are like, "Yes." I was like, "Cool. Who are we meeting with?" And you guys are like, "Director of sales, this division, mid market, whatever." And we're like, "We're just trying to build a partnership with them, whatever." And I remember, dude, you killed it so well building rapport with this guy, just getting him to open up. And here we were. I think the only agenda was basically like just build a relationship and just kind of start with him.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, he's talking about like he's like, "Okay, so I have this like 1,500 seat deal here that I think I'm going to pull you guys in on, and then I got this 1,200 seat deal here that we could try to figure out how to work together
Oh,
on." And
I
like
remember this. I
super.
remember this meeting now. It finally came back to me. That's my friend Alan. Yeah.
Dude, it was crazy. I was like, man. And I remember us all walking out of that meeting with Alan, and it was just like, what just happened? Like, it was all three team members, just each of us had our different skill sets. And
Yeah.
those were those crazy days, man. Those were some wild times.
Yeah, that was like the start of a 3-year long, procurement process or something. So yeah, super
I'm
fun.
sure.
No. Yeah, I mean, an account like Microsoft, man, it's like, gosh, I don't know how many employees Microsoft has. It's got to be what,
Thousands.
hundreds of thousands or something
Yeah,
crazy.
probably. Yeah,
So
probably
trying to figure out an
millions,
account
dude.
like that is kind of impossible, right? Unless you have like a real partner. And then even then, probably like a 1,200 seat deal to them is like peanuts. We're just like,
Nothing.
yeah, we yeah,
Yeah.
we could probably sell that many seats. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Support
We've
team,
probably done
you
this
guys good with that?
before, somewhat.
You guys are
Yeah,
good with that,
yeah.
right? You guys can
Yeah.
onboard 1,200 people, right?
That's a great story though, man. Like I think, yeah, it reminds me like not to take this job for granted, like sales is hard. Fuck, like enterprise sales is extremely difficult and long and arduous and it takes years, right, to build up your credibility, your subject matter expertise, your product knowledge, coming across as an expert in your space, which is like a prerequisite for success. But yeah, like just sometimes, yeah, taking that moment, right, no matter how the meeting went, to be like, I just met with all the higher ups today at Wells Fargo. Like, that's kind of cool. Like not everyone gets to do that. So, yeah, like, yeah, it's still a special job, as difficult as it is, right? And you get these unique experiences that are kind of tough to explain what being in these rooms, is like.
Yeah, for sure. Well, for those of the listeners who don't know the amazing Josh Gillespie, tell us a little bit about your quick background and your current role. Fill us in,
Oh man, how much time you got? Yeah, no.
right?
Grew up the whole, in Oregon, came to California for college. I was a philosophy major, had no inkling to ever get into business or sales. I just wanted to read books. Ended up becoming a social worker in San Francisco out of college, which was a good but very tough emotional job. And
I
eventually
bet.
just wasn't paying the bills. And this is like 2006, 2007 era. Yes, I'm old. And I did that for a couple years. And, it was like make 35K. a year, and in 5 years you get a bonus up to 40K a year, and you can kind of progress your career. But like, I just love San Francisco. I love living like in the Bay Area, and I just had a thought, which was like, wow, if I want to afford to live here, I need to get my paper up. What is everyone else doing? Tech. What am I qualified to do? Nothing. Sales, right?
Talk
so
about tech.
I I had a couple of friends that I went to college with that were at Yelp in 2008, and Yelp, people maybe forget because it's been a long time, but was one of the first like iPhone applications to come standard on the iPhone. And so pre-IPO Yelp was actually a really exciting time in San Francisco to join. It was a true boiler room, like 200, salespeople on the same floor. Everyone's at a table. Your manager can cut into any of your calls and like yell at you while you're on the call to tell you what to say, or you know, hold like a whiteboard at you and be like, say this, say this.
Read while you're
Like,
talking. Read.
oh my God. Just extremely, yeah, like stressful environment. And in 2008, we also forget like this was a terrible time to be in sales. Like the economy was crashing, like things were not like in a great spot. And so, anyways, one out of 750 of my phone calls was a closed one deal early on. But I think every salesperson kind of needs to get
One out
started
of how
in a
many?
role where you 750 phone calls. And I had to make
No
150 phone calls a
way.
day. So it was one deal a week, like on average, with a whole lot of activities. And this is when Yelp was like pretty popular and likable. But yeah, nonetheless, tough time period. But
So what do you do when you
I
hear
cut my teeth.
right? So what do you
Yeah,
do when you hear reps say complaining about making like 50 calls a day?
it's crazy. I mean, I sympathize in a way because the efficacy of their,
Sure.
calling has gone down, right? Like you
Yeah,
need a
that
power
makes sense.
dialer
Fair.
now probably to like 10x your phone calls to get to even like
Yeah.
similar results. So in a way it's harder, but in a way it's still our most, successful weapon or tool that we have in the shed.
Yeah.
And you better be using it one way or another.
That's awesome. Yo, can you tilt your screen down just a little so we can see more of? There we
Yeah, this
go. Look at
tracksuit.
that
There we
good.
go.
Yeah, there you go. That whole
Am
throne,
I
dude. That
freezing?
chair is legit, dude. It's awesome.
Thank you.
I like it. So okay, cool, man. What are you doing now? What's going on? Tell us about Omni and what you got going on there.
Yeah, so I joined my second startup. As you know, my first one was Panadoc. I got a little loquacious there, but yeah, after Yelp, I was, in and out of tech sales. Started at another startup where, yeah, we got to ride, right? A rocket ship from 5 employees when I joined to over 1,000 at one point at the peak, and building a unicorn from
Jeez.
scratch. And like, yeah, I will say having a sales seat for longer than a few years at a time was really beneficial. And we see people in our like industry jumping around, right? Like all the time, kind of chasing the higher base, the higher OTE. And we get tired
Yeah.
maybe of selling the same thing too, like
Sure.
year after year after year. For me though, like most of my benefit came after 3 or 4 years at Panadoc, because then I didn't have to do any outbound sales. Like all of my leads
Yeah.
came inbound or from my book of business, through referrals, through working with my post sales teams on expansions. And the job just got so much easier after year 3. And yeah, it was really cool to see a company grow from very, very, very small startup, no revenue, to almost $100 million in ARR over a 10-year period. Because you're
Jeez.
basically, it's 10 different companies, right, at different sizes
Yeah.
over that 10-year period. So that was
Wasn't V
probably my professional success. And then I was like, you know what? Let me go back into startup mode and see if I can do this again before I get too old.
That's crazy, man. Wasn't V1 of Panadoc, wasn't that like you and the CEO in an apartment inside San Francisco? Like you guys didn't even have like an official office. It was just like an apartment and you guys are just closing right there.
It was a small kind of condominium in Daly City. It was me, the CEO, the VP of marketing, and they were like yelling at each other in Russian like the whole time. And I'd
You
be like,
guys
"Are you
were
guys okay?" And he'd be like, "No, this is just how we talk to each other. What do you mean?" And I'm like, "Okay, cool vibes." And then it was his wife and his newborn baby, which was also like, "Josh, can you talk less quiet on your sales calls? You're waking up the baby." Um, so yeah, pretty
and then
humble beginnings.
to go from that to 1,000 employees, man, you have seen it all, brother. And that's where we got connected. Is for those of you who don't know, Josh was a director, and then I came in as a director as well. And so it's fun because we both ran different teams, but at the same time, we're both on sales. You know, we were both focused on growing the revenue of the company. So it was
Yeah.
pretty fun.
And
It
I
was a
will say you
blast.
shouldn't like stay at any company for 10 years, but it's hard to leave if you're crushing it and the company is continuously growing, right? Those 10 years. So that also
Yeah,
made it easy to stay. But eventually we
yeah.
left and are happier now. And yeah, Omni is my current startup. It's another 5 person startup, an AI company, of course, here in San Francisco. But I'm having fun again. You know, really just like every day is completely different. So yeah.
That's sick. Well, I can't wait to get more into that as we go. Tell us more about how your sales approach has evolved over the last 15 years.
Oh, that's interesting. I would actually say it hasn't evolved as much as you might think, only because the times I would say have evolved or devolved, however you want to think about it, to kind of require my style of salesmanship, right? Like I've never been a
Mm,
spray and pray seller. I never used, even when I was extremely successful in the ZERP era, right? Between 2012 and 2022, I never used SalesLoft or Outreach once. And I think I'm the only like seller that can claim that because yeah, the way of selling was like we were enabled by all this new tech. The new tech made our jobs easier. It made sales more reactive. So it's like
hmm
load up your entire addressable market of accounts, load up all your contacts, blast out emails to all of them, and then react to the ones that open or the ones that click a link. Or now we're de-anonymizing website visitors as a play. And like there's all these reactionary sales motions that, you know, in theory get away from cold calls, right? Because we hate cold calls. We hate trying to build value from scratch because that's the harder
Yeah.
job. That's the harder
Oh,
task.
so
So,
hard.
geez, tech, go tell me when the timing is right to hit up XYZ at BY Co. And it's like, they're not wrong. Like some plays like are worth running that are reactive. Like for sure, I always keep track of my old customers and if they've moved to another company. Sure, follow them. They can probably help you like get a new lead. But like the website de-anonymization and the email spray and pray, that's obviously like not a great converting play to begin with. And when I think
Mm,
about emails, like we all know, it's getting harder for those emails to get through an evolving spam filter. And AI sending the email is also just making it more difficult. So if the efficacy of our email campaigns doesn't work because they never get delivered, it doesn't even matter what we say, right? It's not even worth it to like spend time typing out an email manually anymore if you're just praying that it gets through a spam filter. And more than likely, if it's a if it's a sales message where you don't have an existing relationship, that's what's going to happen unless you're like warming up 50 email boxes and doing all this crazy stuff on the back end to support your email campaigns. So all that is to say, it's getting harder to do volume-based sales motions that work.
hmm
So don't. And I never did. I was never a fan of volume-based selling. I never did email blasts. Um, I never did, you know, like cold calling sprees. All of my work in this field has been highly targeted from day one, and it's
mm,
benefited me well in ways. Maybe in other ways, it's slowed me down, right? Like I've had to work a lot of 60 and 80-hour weeks, like just
yeah.
doing the tedious tasks of manual account research and yeah, trying to craft a point of view, trying to be creative in my outreach. So slowing down because that's when it's more fun to me and it's more meaningful versus if
Sure.
I just say the same thing to everyone and then chase. Like that
Yeah.
sucks.
Absolutely. When did you notice the traditional email sequences failing?
It seems like it's been a pretty quick evolution these last 2 years.
hmm
Um, Probably everyone went remote, is my guess, right? In the pandemic years, and we started relying maybe even more on these solutions. And then you also
Yeah.
have the evolution of AI platforms that claim to personalize your emails at scale that everyone's fussing with now. And it's just created a lot of noise and a lot of saturated bad sales messaging that makes it harder for those of us with legitimate sales messages, right? Maybe handcrafted, personalized, relevant for that noise to get through. Because, you know, you probably receive, like, I'm the head of growth at a startup, and we had a fundraising announcement. Do you know how many automated emails I got in that first week that were like, Josh, congrats on your recent funding? Because that's the signal. By the way, my company does this. let's chat.
Like
And you're
with
like,
companies like yours.
how did like you probably think that's such a cool play, like, wow, I automated an email off their fundraising announcement, but so did everybody else. So that's the thing, is like when you're investing in tech to do the job for you, know that everyone else is as well. And by virtue of that, like, it's gonna be less effective. And so yeah, I
Absolutely.
just feel like the
Yeah, I
entire
want to do
space
like,
is catching up to the strategic game of shit. Nothing else works. I need to slow down and be strategic. Damn it.
yeah,
What does that mean? Right?
yeah, yeah. I want to do like one of these shows where we just go live in our inbox and we just show how many messages we get that are exactly the same. That it's always like,
Uh,
and it's like, hey, I'm following up. I'm following up on my last message. I'm following up on my follow up on my follow up. And you're like, dude, just stop. Like, this is
it's
going to be
frustrating. And
crazy.
it's crazy. And like Google soon even is like bringing in new filters too. Like they're using AI to see if your message is a salesy one.
Yeah,
And if they can determine that, which they can, you're going to go into a specific bucket, right? So not great.
absolutely. So, what about sales leaders who insist, hey, it's a numbers game? How do you
Yeah. I
respond to that?
mean, that's just an old thing to say. You got the wrong sales leader. I mean, they're not necessarily wrong, first of all. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it is somewhat of a numbers game, right? We still look at
Mm-hmm.
activity metrics. There's still a lot of work to be done. But I think it's upon like sales leaders to figure out that, like, in 2025, your go-to market strategy is not in volume-based sales, because messaging can hurt you just as much as it can help you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's more about, how do I enable my team to be authentic down to each individual seller, which is not to make them repeatable and predictable and scalable in a certain way like we've treated sellers. It's, who is this human as a seller? What's interesting about them, right? How do I
Mm-hmm.
amplify their authenticity? And how do we build in public? How do I get my salespeople posting more and getting engagement, right? Talking about their struggles. Like some of the best salespeople have big followings on LinkedIn because they talk about how hard their job is and the reality of it, and not just their successes, but their failures is really interesting, I think. So, how do I get my sellers to talk more and build in public? How do I focus more on community centric growth? Like, how do I build a bridge between my pre sales team and my post sales team? Your post sales team has all the relationships, the book of business, the ability to like make easy referrals and create leads for your pre sales team. Like, this is something we used to train a lot, right? At Panadoc, it was like, yo, CSMs, I know you're not salespeople, but you are talking to customers all day long. And a lot of them are saying nice things like, wow, I love Panadoc. I love this service. I love Omni. Like, thank you. And anytime they express gratitude or happiness, is an opportunity for you to say, great, by the way, would you be open to introducing us to anyone that you work with, partners, customers, clients that might also be interested in our service? Or if not, would you be open to doing a case study with us? Or if not, would you be open to taking a few customer reference calls? Because that really helps my sales team. And so by building a bridge for me, right, with all of our
Mm.
CSMs, all of our account managers, that also became a lead channel for me, because anytime any of those guys had good feedback and like would get a referral that said, hey Josh, I have a happy customer, he'd love to make you some referrals, I would go talk to that guy and I'd say, hey, actually, like, referrals are cool, but what also help is, like, I have a Rolodex of happy customers. Would you be open to taking a reference call with me? And the best sales play we can make is, after a discovery call, right? What's next? Let me follow up and send you a proposal. Let's get a mutual action plan in place. Let me set up a bunch of other calls for your team to get similar demos. Let me give you access to a trial environment so you can validate our product doesn't break before you buy it. All of those motions and plays and activities can be circumvented by having a real customer
Mm.
on your second call come in and say, hey, I know we had a great discovery. It seems like there's a lot of alignment. Before we go any further, I just wanted you to like talk to one of our real customers. And, you know, John over here is happy to tell you about his experience working with us, what onboarding was like, what other values he's gotten that maybe weren't expected. And by the way, feel free to ask him anything, right? Like, ask him what he hates about us too. And then I'll just sit in the back, and my customer is selling for me and I don't have to do anything. And it's so much more believable. Like, that play converts to a deal so much quicker because now, by virtue of them connecting with the real customer and hearing all the story of that process of working with us, they don't need a trial. They don't need to multi-thread. They can go to their boss and say, they actually introduced me to three of their customers that are bigger than us, that would pay more than we would for this service. And it's an easy sell from there. So yeah, stacking up a Rolodex of customer references is only possible, right? By like extending the olive branch to your post sales teams and making sure that relationship is super tight. So if I'm a VP of sales today, that's my goal more so than like teeing up a bunch of sequences, right? Like, what is our
Yeah.
handoff process like? Are our post sales teams like creating opportunity every time they hear a good thing? If not, I actually need to train them on this
Mm,
sales play more so than the sales people. Um, and
smart.
then also, how can we facilitate like self-service, right? Like when the macroeconomics of it all are bad, and we know that if I go straight to a CRO or VP, they're not going to just like open up a six-figure opportunity without
Right.
sending me down the chain and having their team tested and validate and all that, all the influencers look at us and whatnot. So knowing that, our strategy needs to change. And some people hate going bottom up, right? Like working with an
Yeah.
AE or an end user or a CSM, someone a little lower level that
Because they're not
has no
patient.
authority.
Yeah, they're
They're
not
not
patient.
patient.
They feel like, oh, I need to get the deal quicker. I need it to be this quarter. I need to be this month. And it's like,
Exactly. They're in a rush. And so they're skipping steps. But if you think about, would my case to a VP, especially if I'm going outbound, be strengthened if my initial message says, hey, I'm reaching out because five of your individual contributors are already using my tech successfully? Do we think that message might convert at a little bit of a higher level? If so, and your other messaging isn't converting at all, start thinking about bottom up or middle outwards, right? Types of motions, even if they take longer, because you need to build a community of evangelists one way or another.
dude, that's awesome, man. Let's, you just jumped into this new company. I mean, not just, you've been there for a little while now. So you've got your feet under you. How do you, starting day one in a new company, how do you tap into institutional knowledge for people that are just starting out,
Oh,
or they're hearing this approach and they're like, ooh, this sounds smart.
great question. I think a lot of times we just like jump in and go through the standard onboarding or talk to our immediate kind of manager, director, VP, right? Maybe we skip level every now and then. Just what I said for me has been the most important. So as soon as you start in week one, start pinging everyone on Slack, like everyone in the company, and introduce yourself, right? Like, especially if you're in sales, like this is what we do. Ping everyone, the engineers, the developers, the CSMs, like the support specialists, the outsourced, partners. Ping everyone and say, hey, my name's Josh Gillespie. Full name, right? Like Dale Carnegie style. My name's Josh Gillespie. I'm yours, you own me. I'm your new account executive. And I would love to just grab 5 or 10 minutes just to like catch up and get to know you. Right. So get to know everyone in your org. They all have some view or story of what it's like under the hood. Right. And you
Mm-hmm.
kind of want to
Mm-hmm.
know all of that, not just the good stuff. Like obviously we're conveying a certain part on the sales side, which is usually quite positive. I want to know what are the real objections. I want to know, do we suck in any way? What do we suck at? Make sure I know that before I start pitching this so that I can also start gearing up for my response to those objections, knowing they're valid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so for sure, like the CSMs, your customer success managers, your account managers, those who are owning the relationship post sale, for me are the most important because they have the real story of what is it like managing these clients over time, not just selling to them, but what was it like to
Mm.
onboard them? What are some of the pitfalls people fall into? What's maybe something you hate about how the current sales team is overselling this? How could I improve handoffs when I do finally close my first deal? How would you like that to look as far as, do you want a dossier? Do I Slack you? Do we have a one-on-one meeting? Do I attend the onboarding call and do like a vocal handoff to begin the call? Like, how do you want this to go? Like, care about your resources, right? Go talk to your solution engineers. Hey, how do you typically like to engage with sales? Like, we're obviously supposed to be the quarterbacks, but as you know, sometimes SEs get relied on to like do everything. And like that's not cool. I know they hate that. So how can I like build a great alliance with you, Mr. Solution Engineer, Mrs. Solution Engineer, to ensure that I'm leveraging you as a resource properly? And again, the solution
Mm.
engineers, they know all the technical objections and how to answer
Mm-hmm.
them, right? The CSMs and the
How do you
AMs know
pull this stuff out of
exactly
them?
how the product works and doesn't. You just simply ask and like make it, casual and just like offer to meet them. And then if they give you 5 or 10 minutes of time, which of course everyone's going to give a new employee 5 or 10 minutes of time if they get slacked, who wouldn't? Then yeah, it's a great opportunity to just like, hey, tell me about how things are going. Like, what do you love? What do you hate? Tell me more about your customers and the ideal ones. Tell me how to be the like who else is the best salesperson here in your view and why, right? And so
That's a
yeah,
great
I think
question.
oftentimes we're looking for institutional knowledge specific to our role. I'm all about the cross-functional knowledge. That's way more interesting
Yeah.
stuff.
Oof, I love it. That's so good. You had talked, we were prepping for this before. You had talked about your 10 pieces of evidence. I thought this was freaking brilliant. So, what sources do you use to pull 10 pieces of evidence? And what even is 10 pieces of evidence? Can you explain that?
Yeah. So I think some people refer to compelling events as another common use. I like to say evidence of opportunity because it sounds a little more formal. Why would a business want to work with me? Can I go online, right? Publicly available resources, databases, news articles, blog posts, social website, glass doors, everything. If I scan all of this stuff I have available, right, to me as far as information, can I find 10 articles or artifacts that speak to a pain or a business initiative that I can solve, right? One place commonly enterprise reps look is a company's 10K, their earnings reports, right? That will
Mm-hmm.
hold all of their strategic initiatives for the year. And so that's something a lot of people are doing now, which is like going and getting the 10K, uploading it into ChatGPT or Perplexity, tell me, the strategic initiatives for the year, reading those, and then trying to see if any of those align to my product or service. Because now I can reference that in my outbound prospecting to make my prospecting feel more organic, right? And
Mm-hmm.
based on an event or based on this evidence. But if you stack 10 pieces, right? Like think about how much outreach it takes to get to a qualified opportunity. I forget like the Gartner metric, but it's something like 122 impressions or something stupid. So
And it
you
just keeps
combine all the
going
cold
up and
calls
up every year, too. The numbers just keep
for sure.
skyrocketing.
Exactly. So like you do kind of have to think about that, right? And do a lot. So for me, how do I shorten the number of impressions I need to make to get to qualified opportunity? In every single email in my cadence, let's say it's 5 messages. Each one references a different article I found that has a different piece of evidence that suggests we should be working together.
Mm.
So now I'm adding a new value from a third party every single message, which means I avoid any like, hey, just following up. Did you read my first message? Did you read my previous emails? Well, I'm gonna break up with you soon. Can you put one yes, two no? Like, God, these sequences are dumb and they suck.
Do I
Like,
need to send
add
out a
value,
rescue squad?
add the goal is to add value in a new way in every single communication we send. Otherwise, don't send it, right? And that's a very hard
Nice.
thing to do because it requires research. But luckily,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I started at Omni, and that's exactly what we do. We leverage all of the frontier large language models concurrently to go scour the entire internet, the entire world of information, right? And go find evidence of opportunity and just give it to you on a platter. Here's 20 articles in the last 6 months that speak to an opportunity for you that you can then reference and use. And that's all. That's
That's
pretty much like
sick.
the main magic that we do.
So, how does that look? What's the average week look like using this approach, using AI empowered tools like Omni,
Yeah,
versus that high volume approach that you were doing potentially before? You
it's a
weren't.
tip.
You were never really doing it before, but that teams are doing, on a regular basis.
I mean, I was always working 60 to 80 hours a week in this role because my differentiator as a salesperson was to be more thorough, to do more due diligence,
Mm-hmm.
to go and find manually all of this evidence, which takes time. Like I used to read through Glassdoor reviews, like all of them in a given company. Sometimes there's 100 because I'm looking. Number two, employees will talk about the pains in a way that you kind of can't find elsewhere. So I would spend hours and hours and hours on this research stuff manually looking for the gold because I had to, right? To be good at what I do. Um, my week's more or less the same. I still work 40 to 60 hour weeks because there's always something to be done. But I've been able to narrow that research task from like 3 to 4 hours per account, which is pretty painful, like down to 5 minutes, which means now I
Wow.
can prospect more, right? I can consider more accounts at a time. I can run them all for research, like 100 at a time, and then stack rank them based on the number of evidence that I find for each and start with the ones that have like 50 articles in the last 3 months that like say, we're looking for an AI research tool, please God, right? Like, cool. Like, let me start on these accounts because there's more evidence. So yeah, my week has been completely different as far as, yeah, consolidating the time I spent on the tedious tasks. Also, because I'm able to complete those tedious tasks quicker, prospecting better, prospecting more at scale than I ever have.
Mm. Where's that balance? How should reps use AI without automating a broken process?
Mm, I love that question because I think the misconception with AI today is that we can run the same sales motions like spray and pray emails, but the AI can personalize them at scale in a way so that they're better. No, AI is not fixing volume-based sales plays. If they sucked before, they're going to suck now. Um, what was your question again?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Keep going. It's
Okay.
exactly that. It's what should how should reps use AI without
Oh,
automating a broken process?
yeah. It's like so. It's really not about like we got to get away from this love of automation. Automation doesn't necessarily make things something more quality, right? So know that getting
Facts.
into it. Certain things can be automated. Like I'm trying to automate my research task for sure. I'm trying to automate the creation of certain deliverables that used to take me a long time, like build a account plan, build a mutual action plan, build a stakeholder map, build a SWOT analysis. These are all certain types of deliverables that are founded on all that research, but then still take hours to complete and put together. Omni's doing that for me now as well because it's doing the research. I can tell it,
Hmm.
put an account plan together for me. 30 seconds, account plan done.
Sick.
So it becomes more like, what else would you do with that time? Right. And so it just depends.
Hmm.
If you're an SMB, transactional seller, if you're mid market, if you're enterprise, like depending on your vertical, depending on your ASP, these are all variables, right? That
Hmm.
kind of determine what your prospecting book of business should look like. Like
And how
for
much time you
me,
should probably spend per account, right?
yep. And so like for me at like Panadoc, let's say, like even like mid-market and enterprise, our ASP, our average sale for an initial contract, a 1 year deal, hovered around 12 to 16K, like depending on the quarter, like the last couple of years. Not huge for an enterprise deal. But I knew I could transact them within 90 days on average, right? So that was my sales cycle. And based on the sales cycle and the ASP and whatever my quota was factored into my head, I knew through the math of it all that I should probably only ever have maximum 40 opportunities that I'm working at any one point. And no one told me to do this, but like anytime I got a new opportunity, if it was number 41, I would scan through my 40 and say, which one of these is my worst opportunity? And I'd kick it out and I would recycle. So, and I'd even pass it maybe to another rep, like, hey, I'm not getting anywhere with this one. Act of good faith. You want a free op? And I'd like frame it. And sometimes they might even go close a deal there. But it was never something that was like a huge, like good deal. It was all something I knew that was like, nah, not super qualified, smaller probably, and like has a lot of work to do. And if it's my worst of 41 ops, am I really gonna like pay attention to the tasks required to like, work this? No.
Yeah.
So I just knew like I can't stare at more than 40 ops at a time and make sense of that without then starting to get into more automation and running like lower level sales plays and seeing if anyone needs a follow up call and all that crap. So know that we're in this time period of less is more. That's very uncomfortable, right? For most sales reps and a lot of sales readers that have been coaching on, more is more, like volume, volume,
Yeah.
volume, go,
Get
go,
those numbers
go.
up. Get those
I kind
numbers
of
up.
I kind of think like the time period requires that we all revert to like
Yeah.
madmen type sellers, right? Like assume you didn't have any of this tech. What would
Right.
you do? You'd probably start thinking about your network. You probably start doing more research, right? Probably start thinking about how do I get a badge to go visit these people? What conferences are they going to attend so I can see them on site? You're thinking about more old school sales plays, and that's the right thing to think about now because tech won't save you.
That's so good. There was you had brought up a HubSpot example of HubSpot reps even paying out of pocket for Omni. Can you go into
Yeah.
detail of why are HubSpot reps that have all the tech, they've got all the tools. I mean, they've got Breeze AI, they've got great tools even from HubSpot, and yet they're still signing up for Omni. I think you said like 30 reps or
Every
something.
just over 20, but we'll get there. And I wasn't
Still
targeting
20
HubSpot
reps.
like because we're a 5 person AI company, right? So sometimes the fact that we do AI, there's a lot of risk aversion at the bigger companies because they don't know enough about it, so they're a little scared.
Sure,
We're a 5 person company, which oftentimes selling to a bigger company will disqualify you, right? Because like they want to know, how are you going to support
of
hundreds of
course.
reps if you only have 5 people, blah, blah,
How
blah.
do we know you're
So
going to be
I
here?
wasn't,
Yeah.
yeah. And so I wasn't actually like going outbound to HubSpot, even though I do know some execs there and I have sold to them before and I have a lot of relationships that are warm. I still was like, I'm going to get disqualified. The time's not right. But then we started
Totally.
seeing a couple of their enterprise reps come inbound and set up trials. And so I called them and I was like, why did you guys set up trials? Like, you have access to every legacy B2B sales solution from Sixth Sense and Zoom Info and Discover Org and SalesLoft and Outreach and Apollo. And there's just, all that stuff. Plus, yeah, they're building out their own tech like Breeze and other AI stuff. Their COO is like an agent AI master with his own little side project going on. Why are you guys coming to a 5 person AI startup? What value could we provide? And they said simply enough, Josh, we don't have anything that does deep account research very well outside of our own individual use, maybe of ChatGPT. And ChatGPT is probably a step in the right direction for research and deliverables, but like it doesn't know a whole lot of context about you. So, like maybe if you're a prompt engineer or like feeding it a lot of context over time, you could train it up to give some good outputs. I don't want to completely sit on it, but at the same time, it's not connected to your HubSpot. It's not connected to your existing tech stack. It's literally just this like magic box in a
It has no
box.
context.
And if you're giving that to your reps, like here you go, like some will get value from it, some won't. And these guys didn't get any value from it. So they're like, look, for account research, for building deliverables, and for prioritizing our accounts, we need something to help because we don't
Mm,
care about like account scoring. Like the scenario is account like HubSpot reps, they change your accounts every year. So these guys came into work, I think on like February 1st or something when their fiscal year changed, looking at 800 plus new accounts.
yeah.
Which ones do I focus on first? If I'm looking at the generic account scoring, those are just taking into account the company size, how much revenue they do,
Yeah.
how many employees they have. Not a bad way, I guess, to stack rank potentially the bigger ones if bigger account means more money or bigger software licensing deal. But at the same time, not very strategic, like if that's the
Hmm.
scoring mechanism. So they asked Josh, could we like load up all 100 or all 800 of our accounts into Omni and then you tell us which ones to prioritize based on the volume of evidence that you find that there's an opportunity for us. I said, yeah, that's a great idea that I hadn't even thought of before, as far as using my own tool to do mass research and then based on those outputs, then prioritize. That makes a lot of sense. Like we should research first, right? Not just understand the size of their company, if that's all that's making for the priority of it all. So we did that for them. They loved it, and then they started talking internally, right? Telling the other AEs, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. Check this out." And so it's been 22 individual signups to Omni from
Dang.
HubSpot, and I'm treating them all like very special, very white glove,
Totally.
giving a unique one-on-one call to all of them because we understand this could turn into like $1 million+ deal if all goes right. So let's give them all TLC, and I'm calling this Operation Groundswell, which is a lot of work, but if
Yep.
we're going to get to $1 million deal with HubSpot as like a small business, I basically need everyone that's an IC at HubSpot saying, "Yeah, I want this," or you're
Hmm.
gonna have to rip it from like cold, dead hams or whatever. So yeah, I think by the time maybe we get to 50, 60, 75 individuals using it, I think we'll get to a pilot here. But yeah, we're still working on it.
That's sick. Have you heard of any deals closed yet from the work? I know
I
it's super
have.
early.
Right from that account specifically, you mean?
Or yeah, yeah,
Or
just from any HubSpot reps close any deals from utilizing this research.
yes, and that's why they've started talking about it. In fact, it's like their top SDR, their top enterprise rep, their mid-market rep that's been there for 16 years. Like,
Jeez.
I got some really good influencers at the IC level, testing it,
Dang.
right? But it doesn't take long to get to value because we're just like, you log in, we've already trained the model. You don't have to prompt anything. All you need to do as an end user is plug in the URL of your account that you want to research or load in a CSV of all of them and then wait a half an hour and you're done. And like there it is. Like
That's
it's still up to you
crazy.
to go be a salesperson from there and figure it out, right? But at least all of your research, all of your strategy, all of your account planning, all of your contact enrichment is done for you for your entire addressable market. Like within 30 minutes, go sell.
Dang, dude, that's sick. That's sick. Well, I can see a lot of movement happening there for sure. On the same note, how do you see AI transforming sales over the next 2, 3 years?
I don't. No, I'm just kidding.
I was like, all right,
Um,
hot take.
No, it has immense power. Like where it's going to, like I think most organizations, especially the bigger ones, large revenue orgs, are still catching up a lot. If today they're like, you guys want Chat GPT license? Damn, y'all, like ugh, a lot's happened in the last couple years where we don't just need to be like reverting to a B2C like solution for our business needs. That's crazy, but it speaks to their lack of education in the space. And also, a lot of the other products, right, don't have brand names yet, are smaller businesses, so they are perceived as riskier. But
Mhm.
yeah, sales is going to change. Like everything from our prospecting, which it obviously is, right? Like potentially you can blame AI for why your SEP, why your outreach and your sales law aren't as effective. So it might actually make
That's
our job harder in some
yeah,
ways if that was your game. Um,
yeah.
where it helps for me is yeah, the most tedious manual tasks. That's where we need to think about. Like we already all have call recorders, and that's kind of like table stakes. But think about even a few years ago, we weren't like loading up Gong or whatever it is to like transcribe our calls and spit out next steps and maybe even send like a recap email on our behalf. Now there's a million platforms that do that. So not having to record like think about taking notes after my call and updating my CRM manually, that's a huge change, right? Now, in a way, if we think about that one change, has that made us better salespeople? Maybe not. This is where it gets philosophical because for me, if I don't write it down, I'm not going to remember it as well. So AI can be an extremely powerful tool, but also beware of the fact that it could be a crutch for you in
Mhm.
improving your salespersonship over time, which oftentimes comes from the pain of it all and the tedious tasks of it all and the repetition of it all, right? That's how we got better at what we do in the old days. Now, if I have AI doing all this stuff for me, am I improving as a salesperson? Like, you do need to ask these philosophical questions because it may not be worth automating everything. Like, I'll probably never turn the call recorder off and go back to leaving notes. But what I do is I manually read the AI notes and I'll add to them still if I feel like something was missed. So there's also this like still needing to be a human in the loop at all times,
Mhm.
especially in sales, because everything we do really should be strategic, really should be intentional, right? Really should be backed on some evidence of opportunity that gives cause for me to make a play. If
Mm.
not, yeah, you're doing it wrong. And so for me, again, that was a long answer, but
No, it's
research,
great.
data entry, right, stuff like that. Sure, like maybe some types of workflows where sure maybe have a good discovery call, hang up, AI can send an NDA for me or something, right? Like there's certain workflows that we can certainly automate based on events triggering. Think about that, but do not think about AI doing your job for you
Mhm.
in a lot of ways. Like it will become a crutch and it may hurt you. The last thing
Mm.
I'll say, and one thing that we're experimenting with, just to like kind of throw some light on where this is all going,
Yeah,
voice
sick.
notes. We're at a place now where video and voice avatars are pretty good. When you look at like a SenseSpark or a Nesty, these guys from London that are building video avatars. I've played with it and it's pretty good. Like I can kind of spot out that it's an AI version of myself. I'm not so sure if it was like a LinkedIn video message, the prospect could. And surely that like deep fake kind of tech will get better over time. Video still a little bit on the way, but audio, I don't know if you've played with audio avatars yet, bro, but they're good. Like I have a West Coast accent. You know, I'm a white guy. I've lived in London. I kind of have a unique cadence, right? And maybe vocal inflections and style that I think is all unique to my own. I recorded my voice in this thing for like a minute long, and it like now I can feed it a script and it can create voice memos for me and send them on LinkedIn. So you might get a voice memo, which is a high converting play, right? If you leave a voice memo instead of a text
Yeah.
message on LinkedIn, that's a very high converting play. But I don't even have to leave the memo anymore. I could have a script. I could have AI personalize the script for the account, for the contact at scale, and then send avatar voice memos and sit back. And so that's a next play that I am thinking about automating or that I want to play with, knowing that voice memos are doing very well.
That's
And
sick.
they're not going to be able to tell that's AI compared to me.
That's sick. Oh, that's awesome. What's a first action for people that are just hearing this for the first time? What's a first action they should start taking tomorrow if they're in sales?
If you're a salesperson,
Yeah.
first action. Uh, my advice is probably more like a series of actions, but um,
That's all right.
man, let me think. That's a tough one. I think it's what we talked about earlier, which is getting to know your org, like at the contact
Mm,
level. So reaching out to your
mm,
CSMs and account managers. At the end of the day, like why sales, like why I believe it will never be replaced by AI is because our trust building, our rapport building skills, and our storytelling, our ability to insert humor or be ironic at the right time, right? Like this is stuff that the bots may never be good at, or if they are, they got a long way to go. So for
yeah.
me, like getting those stories to the point where I can tell them comfortably as if
Mm,
I'm the one who closed those deals would be my number one thing. Like for sure, you need to learn the product. You need to learn the pricing. You got to go through your standard onboarding, right? There's no shortage of one pagers and battle cards and customer stories that you need to go, read up. But when you talk to the people, for me, that's more memorable when I go to a CSM or an AM and I'm like, tell me about your most difficult customer and why. Tell me about your most successful customer and why. Tell me about the customer profiles you really love working with and why. Tell me what's like a thread or like a common objection you hear on like from every single customer, right? Any other like, man, and like tell me a story of how you turned a negative into a positive. Like usually the best salespeople can take an objection, right, that they hear and flip it on its head into something
mm,
positive. Like there's an art there, but that art requires a backing of knowledge that comes from other customers having had that problem where we flipped it on its head. Let me tell you a story about how we did that here to make it believable now. So, whatever
mm.
you can do to become a professional storyteller about your business in a way that makes you way more believable, that's what you should focus on as your first, like, yeah, thing.
Mm. It's good. All right, lightning round.
Oh shit.
Favorite book. Favorite book. Forget sales book. Just favorite book. Open ended. Go.
Art of War.
First one pops in your head. Art of War. Sung Tzu, baby.
Sun Tzu, baby. The
High ground.
management of
Take the
the
high ground.
management will never push your enemy into a corner, right? Like always give them an out. That's a good one for stuff. My favorite line though from that book is the management of many is the same as the management of few. It's a matter of organization. Ooh.
Oof.
That one is always interesting, right? Because as like to your point, we're always trying to scale our activities, do more, grow the company, and then things tend to get a little disorganized with more volume, or there's less qualitative, right? They become less quality as we do more. Got to think about that. We should only be doing
Mm,
more if we're doing more in an organized way that actually doesn't take us longer to execute.
love
Sun
it.
Tzu, baby.
Best career advice.
Follow your dreams, follow your passions. Like necessity breeds success, right? So my introduction to sales, like I hated sales. I never wanted to be a salesperson, but I had to become one. And then it was kind of like an arranged marriage where I learned to love it over time. Um, and it's been good to me, been good to my family. I have no complaints. But I, often talk to my daughter, who is a college graduate, and is like, what should I do? Should I jump into a sales or business role? My advice is like first find a company that aligns with your spiritual ethos, that's doing
Mm-hmm.
something you care about, especially if you're a first time seller. It's a lot
Mm-hmm.
easier to convince someone to take a chance on you as a first time seller, and it'll surely be a lot easier to sell a thing if you genuinely care and like that product or service or are already interested in it prior. Like I attempted to go sell enterprise observability software in between jobs, not passionate about observability software. And
Yeah, me
so
neither.
I had to kind of exit, gracefully out of that role after a year because it just wasn't interesting to me. So not every sales role, not every enterprise sales role is the same. And in fact, to be good at it, you need to have a genuine curiosity that bleeds over into being genuinely curious about your prospects and clients in a way that's difficult to fake if you're not.
Mm.
So yeah, follow your dreams.
Love it, dude. Where can listeners learn more about you, get to connect with you and Omni?
Yeah, we're doing another webinar tomorrow. We do one once a week. I say if you found what I said today to be interesting, always happy to talk and kind of advise and be a consigliere to those in our space. Whether you're an AE, SDR, revenue leader, startup founder, yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. Hit me up. I'll always respond to everyone, and yeah, would love to help. And yeah, always here to be a shoulder to lean on. Like what we're doing this year in 2025 is hard. Like most people, most orgs are failing more than succeeding. The macroeconomics of it all are making this job harder. The AI adoption of spray and pray is making our job harder. I actually want to sympathize with the younger generations who I think get like the Gen Zers get it tough, right? Like they get called lazy, they get called, entitled, blah blah blah. I got called that as a young millennial when I was in 20s. So that's just how the cycle goes. But when I first started my sales job in 2008 at Yelp, it was really hard. And a lot of people were saying as much. Like, yeah, we're in an economic like depression at this point. Like people don't want to buy stuff. Go call core more go, call more people to make sure you hit your number. And the revenue org was like cycling through half of its salespeople every 3 months. Um, we're in a similar time period now, but no one's talking about it as much. And I find that to be interesting, right? Like the macro environment is an uncontrollable that impacts everything we do. And
Facts.
so you just got to know what you're signing up for. Got to know what you're working with. The job is harder. I think it will get easier over time as
Agreed.
conditions around us hopefully improve. But who knows when that is? And you're just going to have to battle through it. And all I can say is
Yeah.
if you're battling through it now, understand that these are the moments that you'll remember in the future career when you're really
Mm.
big and successful and making millions of dollars and on your yacht in Spain. How you got there is through battling through these types of time periods and surviving.
Mm. That's awesome. Josh, you crushed it, man. Thanks for coming on to the show.
My pleasure, man. We got another hour, right? I could keep going. No, that's all
Let's
right.
go, baby. Let's go.
We're in the
Dude,
business.
you